See your left tackle is getting it handed to him Saturday.
Handed.
And you still scat the formation, which means you empty the backfield. You don't slide the protection to him. You don't chip. You don't help. You do nothing. You say, oh well, son, you got to suck it up. You got what? Let me tell you something. Stephen A. Saturday can test to this. Once that guy gets it going, if you don't help him, he will get killed. Once a defensive guy get it, I don't care who your left tackle is, who your right tackle is. Once that guy get a sack and he beats him consistently, good night, Irene, if you don't double him, if you don't chip him. And that still might not be enough with the chip. You might need to double him and say, hey, right tackle, you're on your own today because we've got to slide this protection. We've got to help our left tackle.
Preach.
They didn't do that. And Hendrickson, again, won the sack title, 3.5 sacks in that ball game there. Saturday, you're absolutely right. We cannot place all this at the feet of Russell Wilson. When he has a guy that's supposed to be a receiver that turned into a retriever, that meant he picked the ball up and handed it to the official. That's not your job description, George Pickens. Your job is to catch the football. You see, I love when football gods punish negative behavior because all he do is beat and moan and complain about targets. Oh, he pout, he grope. He quit on a play against Kansas City, and it caused Russ to throw an interception, and they blame Russ, not knowing that he gave up on cover 2. Justin Reed saw that he was no threat down the deep rail and snuck back in and got a pick. Mike Tomlin need to do something about it. He need to get a hold of this behavior, Stephen A., because I see it too much from the receiver position. We saw it with George Pickens. We saw it with Deontay Johnson, AB, Claypool. There's a reoccurring theme that Mike McCarthy, you're either coaching this or you're condoning this. But we're not going to put this at the feet of Russell Wilson today. Nope. Not today.
We can't put it at the feet of Russell Wilson today based on what y'all are saying, because I don't disagree with a single syllable that y'all uttered. But this is why, even though we appreciate the brilliance of your football knowledge, it helps to have a scribe as a part of the mix so I can bring it home to the layman out there for y'all, okay? Nobody is saying that Russell Wilson is to blame. You're asking the question because what you're asking is he good enough to overcome the maladies that exist around the franchise? You know, when we look at Lamar Jackson, even though we need to see more from him in the postseason, he's so electrifying that there's a lot he could cover up in terms of what Baltimore was lacking throughout the years. We saw what Patrick Mahomes has done with the absence of Tyreek Hill. We know they ain't had no receiver in Kansas City that's equitable to Tyreek Hill. Not in your life. But they're the reigning 2-time back-to-back champions. Why? Because Patrick Mahomes can make up for some things. We saw Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis leave Buffalo. Well, how they looking with Josh Allen as their quarterback? That's all we're asking. When you're asking the question about Russell Wilson, that's where you're coming from, Jeff Saturday. You're looking at it from the standpoint, not blaming him because of what you pointed out, both of you pointed out about, you know, what Pickens is lacking, AB and all of these other guys. Here's where it gets interesting, and I'll throw this back to y'all. Steelers, for some reason, historically have found all-world receivers from a talent perspective. Head cases, no doubt. So my point to you, Jeff Saturday, question, I would throw this to you this way. Do you throw the wide receivers coach out of the building, right, and get somebody else that is going to make sure to avoid having head cases, but that man was elite at finding the talent at the position? Or do you pick the talent and deal with the head cases? Because ultimately, that's the decision that the Steelers are going to have to make, because Mike Tomlin, no matter how much he has tried to deal with it and ultimately replaced guys, no matter what, you still find guys at these positions that are relatively problematic inside and outside the locker room.
I would say it this way. There's a whole lot more wide receivers out there that you could put on the field that'll help your team win than quarterbacks like you're talking about. You name 3 guys who are dudes, right? Who are dudes. There ain't many. God didn't create many Lamar Jacksons. God didn't create many Josh Allens, right?
But I was just using it to crystallize your question, Jeff. I was just using it to crystallize your question. In other words, I was saying we're not saying that Russell Wilson is bad. We're just saying that's what you need. That's all I'm
with
saying.
you. But in my opinion, Russell Wilson can carry your team to where you want them to go if you build the guys around him that do compete, that do fight, that do challenge week in and week out. He can be that guy. Again, they're limited in the backfield. They're limited at wide receiver. And this is not a knock on Najee Harris or Warren. These guys are good, but they're not Bijan Robert. They're not the difference makers that you're talking about, especially at the wide receiver. And as good as Pickens is, he still hasn't shown you that he's consistent. And so you have to have some consistency at that position to allow your quarterback to look good. And Shannon, your point about tackles and about players. I watched Jonathan Ogden, who may be one of the greatest left tackles of all time. I watched Dwight Freeney hunt on that dude. And let me tell you, I don't care how good you are, to your point, once your head gets spinning and you're thinking, I mean, I can't tell you how many offensive linemen I've heard come to the sideline. I can't block them. And I'm churching it up as nice as I can say it. But they're like, somebody help me. Slide my way, send protection my way, chip my way. Do something, because when you just go, hey, be better, that does not work. It's no different than a receiver beating on a DB or vice versa. At some point, you got to throw some help a guy's way. They did not do a good job of that.
To answer your question, Stephen, you remember saying that you had a Patrick Mahomes. When Patrick Mahomes' receiver was dropping all those balls, how did Patrick Mahomes look?
Yeah.
He didn't look great, but he found a way.
No, they lost five. What did they lose? 5 games, 6 games last year? What about when Patrick Mahomes was in the Super Bowl and he didn't have no line to protect him, like Russell Wilson had the other night? Remember Tom Brady in Super Bowl against the Giants when they hunted?
Yeah.
They bam on you enough. I've been around the game too long, Stephen A. When them guys start hunting, I don't care who the quarterback is, he's going to get gun shy. And when he gets gun shy, that's all I need. That's all I need.
All right. Saturday night.
Stephen A., you said, should we get another? One more thing, Molly. Stephen A. said, should we get a receiver coach? No. What you need to do is that when they exhibited negative behavior, I don't care if they had 150 yards. You punish negative behavior. Because what you do with a child, if a child misbehaves, my grandpa used to always tell my grandmother, you never reward negative behavior. If that child show out, you don't get him ice cream, you don't get him a toy, you address it and let them know that's not the behavior that we're going to have.
Shannon, which quarterback do you trust more? Is it Jayden or Baker in the wild card?
Man, this is a tough one here. I'm going to go Baker for the simple fact, I think, because he's played in the playoff before. He's played really well in a playoff game before. And so I just trust him. I know Jayden Daniels is going to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's played extremely well getting this team. What they win? 11, 12 games this year. They're a very good football team, very well coached. Dan Quinn is going to get some Coach of the Year considerations, although I think Kevin O'Connell probably should win that award. But with that being said, I just love the way Baker's played. What he's shown me this year, not just this year, but last year being in Tampa, he's found a home. He's found coaches that believe in him. He's always been able to galvanize his teammates. His teammates have always loved him. And so that's the great thing. Your teammates love you, the coaches believe in you, and now the fans appreciate what you do. Man, I think I'm going to go with Baker for all those reasons, because I love what he's done over the last 2 years since he's been in Tampa. He's been in big games before, so I'm going to give the nod to Baker.
Yeah, I agree with you here, Shannon. This is a Baker Mayfield for me, and this is no slight to Jayden Daniels, to your point, who's had a heck of a season, and the Commanders have played extremely well. I think last week when the numbers speak for themselves: 41 touchdowns, 16 picks. Baker's had a career year. But when he pulled the ball down against the Saints, they were losing the game. And I don't remember who he hit, but he comes and he has this nasty collision with a guy, and he gets up and he's talking trash. And you saw his whole team come to life. It's not just about the X's and O's, y'all. There's something about him. He got something about him right now. And to your point, where Jayden Daniels is, there is no slight. This kid has had a fantastic first year, and his trajectory is going to skyrocket. But where this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team is and what they came back from, losing 2 games to Atlanta and still winning the division 4 times in a row. And by the way, offensive line-wise, this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, their offensive line is a top 10, probably top 5, honestly, offensive line right now, the way they're playing with Bucky Irving back at running back. All this thing fits to me. I love where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are and the attitude that Baker Mayfield exemplifies.
Can't dismiss anything that y'all are saying. I'm going to go with Jayden Daniels as the answer to this question, but let me say this. We would be doing Baker Mayfield a disservice to just talk about, the good season that he has had. This is a kid that has resurrected his career.
Yeah.
And when you consider the adversity that he had coming out of Cleveland, when he was in Carolina, we thought he was done. His career was probably over. What he has done to turn his career around, his life around, that's a story that at some point in time we're going to be seeing on 30 for 30 or something. I mean, this dude, he deserves a lot more love than we're actually giving him, and we're giving him love now because he deserves it. He really, Baker Mayfield he's been great. But here's why I'm going with Jayden Daniels, the running ability. When we talk about Lamar Jackson, we talk about the dual threat that he is. We mention him, and then we mention Jayden Daniels, who's just a rookie. The man's got 3 touchdowns. He's got 3 game-winning touchdowns on his resume. I mean, when I'm looking at him right now, ranked second in the NFL with 12 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter and overtime, I'm thinking about the 3 touchdown passes coming on the final play of a game. I'm thinking about him being a rookie and putting up the numbers that he has put up, and then you take into account his ability to run with the football. See, when I think about Baker Mayfield, I got to think about Mike Evans. I got to think about cats like that. Not that you ignore McLaurin and with the Commanders. I get that. But we've seen Jayden Daniels make plays with his legs when all else failed. It's not that Baker can't do that, Baker Mayfield, because we know he can do it, but not like Jayden Daniels. Not like the Lamar Jacksons, the Jayden Daniels, people like that. It's a different dimension to them. And when I think about the playoffs, I think that's going to be needed. And that's where I am with Jayden Daniels. You're just talking about comparing 2 guys throwing a football, pick it. But the running ability of Jayden Daniels, I think, can bode very, very well for the Commanders come playoff time.
Got to leave it there.